Are you ready to learn from a very seasoned entrepreneur and scale yourself and your business? This is the Scale You podcast, where every single season we bring on different experts depending on the theme that we have for that season. Season 1 was all about entrepreneurship, of people who have started from scratch, built their own business. Season 2 was focused on digital nomads, where for a lot of these different entrepreneurs, how they're able to scale their business as they're traveling through different parts of the world. And right now on Season 3, we're focused on a lot of serial entrepreneurs, basically people with one or more business or have had experience running more than one business at once, and how they're able to scale themselves. So if you're ready to ditch the grind, let's go over and scale you. Our guest today helps business owners transform from operators to owners using a variety of frameworks that cut through the chaos and overwhelm of running a business. As a certified exit planner and Kolbe coach, he has refined his tips, tools, and techniques over the past 30 years, sharing them to help others live the life that they deserve as business leaders. Hey everyone, so please help me welcome our amazing guest for today, Pete Mohr. Hey Pete.
Hey, so happy to be here with you and of course with the listeners today. I'm excited for this conversation.
Super excited to have you. It sounds like you're kind of essentially the perfect profile of the seasons, basically, of like who we're talking to, who we're listening to. So to start off, of course, introduce yourself a little bit of like your background, how you got it, and kind of, I guess the perfect place to start also is then your very first business and how it grew from there.
Well, I'm one of those sort of typical entrepreneurs that you hear. Started cutting lawns when I was, 12 years old and all that sort of stuff. And I had businesses through high school, through university. I paid my way through university with the businesses that I ran during that time. But coming out of university back in 1994, I was 23. I bought my first franchise, and I didn't have a lot of money. I was still young, but I did have enough to buy the franchise. And that franchise was a bathroom refinishing business. So we refinished bathtubs, we refinished, all sorts of different kitchen cabinetry and tile and all sorts of stuff. So I bought that business, and we had that business from 94 to 2009, and I sold it in 2009. So we ran it for 15 years. And as we're recording this in 2025, back to 1994, I've been in business for 30 years. It's really an interesting thing, and it's hard to believe how quickly time goes. But the gentleman that bought it from me, last September, when it had its 30-year anniversary, called me and he said, "Pete, you had it for 15 years. I've had it for 15 years. It served us both well." So that was kind of cool. Even though I still don't own it, just to see that the legacy of that business, my first business, still lives on, still provides well, still does good, in 1,000 or so bathrooms a year. So it's a good, solid business that continues. But I know part of our conversation today is around having multiple businesses and all that sort of stuff too. And during that time that I had that business, about 2 or 3 years in, I was offered another opportunity to look at another business, and it was a cleaning company. Oddly enough, it was in bathrooms as well. We focused on bathrooms.
Same industry, yeah.
It was down. Yeah, we were a bathroom business company for 15 years. But in this business, we clean and sanitize washrooms for restaurants and for retail stores and for all sorts of different places, public places. And we looked after air fresheners and hand soaps and paper products and all sorts of different things in the public washrooms. And we actually sanitize them too, because their usual cleaning staff does an okay job, but never really a great job. So we would go in and do a great job for them and take care of the products too. Well, that business was really struggling, and it had 30 clients. And through the next 10 years, we grew it to about 300 clients. And then we exited that business too. So that was sort of 2008, 2009. And then I became a business broker. I went back to school, took my executive MBA. And my sort of philosophy at the time was to get into big business for a few years and then kind of bring those learnings back to my own business at a later time. But that was the crash. I mean, we had a big crash in 2008 in North America, and they weren't there wasn't people hiring MBAs and all that stuff so much. I ended up taking my realtor's license, became a business broker, and helped people buy and sell businesses, which is where I found the current business that we've had for the last 15 years. It's called Shoetopia. We own some shoe stores. And so we still own Shoetopia. We've just, here as we record, next week will be our 15th anniversary of taking that over. And we have one of our stores next week also has its 10th anniversary because we planted that store 10 years ago. Like I said, time goes very quickly, but we've had a great run. But at the same time of running those multiple stores, I also spend most of my time coaching other business owners and kind of getting back to this podcast and everything around this podcast. It's like, I could not possibly even have a second store if I was doing everything myself. If I was making all the decisions, if I was dealing with all of the detail. My sort of philosophy as we move from operator to owner of the business is that we need to get, the other phrase I like to use a lot, which I think aligns really well, Leanne, is I like to move from detail to dashboard. And from detail to dashboard. And so the idea here is that when we have the proper structure, our processes are honed, our people are in place, we've aligned and assigned accountability to the right person with the right process, because if the process is wrong, it doesn't matter if the assignment of accountability is right, it's going to be wrong. So we want to make sure that our process is as good as we can get it. And then we're going to align and assign it to the right person who loves to do this work, so that they feel good about what they're doing as well. They buy into the culture, the message, all of the things around the business. And when that happens, you're growing effectively, efficiently. Everybody's really liking what they do. And you can free yourself up of the time that you want to use for some other projects. And sometimes that's, I want to go on a vacation. As before we hopped on, we said, you went away for 3 weeks. Well, I was away as well for basically the month of February and part of March. So, when I went away, the beautiful thing with our short, I mentioned we have a couple of stores. I have aligned and assigned people to take care of everything. Yesterday I sat in on my first interview in about 7 years. But I really don't hire people anymore. I really don't, I don't do a whole lot of the detail type stuff anymore. I was on the sales floor this past weekend in our stores because we were really shy of people, but very seldom am I ever called to actually go on the sales floor. And if I am, I'm the backup. I'm not the lead. So these are the things that as you move from solopreneur into growing your business, and if you want to continue to grow, you can't do it all yourself. And I like to use the one around bookkeeper as sort of my primary example. I have 2 business degrees. I'm really good at accounting. I hate to do it, Leanne. I don't like doing accounting.
You have to know.
So we talked about Kolbe. I don't like to check boxes. I don't love to balance visas and statements and all of that. So I can do it. I'm capable of doing it. I understand it. I'm trained to do it. I just don't want to do it. So when we start thinking about all of these things, do I want to be in the detail of that? No, I don't. I'd sooner hire someone else to be in that detail. And I have almost my entire career. I just want the dashboard, because the dashboard from an owner perspective, I need to know these numbers and these numbers, whatever those dashboard numbers are for whatever we're looking at, because that's, as the owner, I've got to make bigger decisions than just does this receipt line up with this receipt? And so I'm happy letting somebody, and by the way, my bookkeeper literally woohoos when she balances. Like when she balances something or she rectifies the bank statement, she's like, woohoo.
She's happy about it. Versus for you, it would have been mind-numbing.
And I'm like, oh my God, that's an hour I'll never get back. Right. And for that person, they woohoo. And a lot of times business owners think that just because they don't like something, nobody likes it. That's totally untrue. There are other people out there that love to do the stuff that you don't do and are more effective and are more efficient, get it done quicker, and actually like to do it. And so putting the pieces of the puzzle together in your accountability chart is such an important piece in order to have the right people working in those areas to help you grow so that you can move. And I'm talking to you, the listener, to help you grow, to help you work through some of those things so that you can actually have the time to think about what you want to do with your business, what you want to do with your family, what you want to do with your life. Because one thing is that when you get into business, the big idea of working for yourself is that I can create the life that I want to live, as opposed to have somebody else tell me what it's going to be. And the problem that we see, and I'm sure you see this because you deal with this stuff all the time, Leanne, they're not living it.
Nope.
They might have more money, but they're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. They can't possibly get any more. There's no more time left. And one thing's for sure, you can't make more time. It's finite. All you can do is buy other people's time. And in order to buy other people's time, we need to have trust in the process. We need to have trust in the people. We need to have alignment with the promise that we're offering to our clients. We need to have the right things lined up so that we can free ourselves up to make the bigger decisions in order to, break the ceiling of complexity so that we can actually start to do. And like I said, whether that's add another business at certain times of my career, I wanted to add another business. Like, okay, I'm kind of bored with this. I've got it all set up now. So I'm going to start another one. And now as a business coach, I love being a business coach because I get to talk about all these things and navigate through all these things with my clients, which is super cool. And whether, I'm a certified exit planner, so I help people get their business ready for sale, whether that's a family transition to the kids or whether it's for sale to a third party, aligning all of that stuff. I help them with their valuation growth. I help them with breaking through some of these things. And, or whether it's on the Kolbe side, as a certified Kolbe coach, I help build better teams and better process and better problem solving and all that sort of stuff. And all of these things are just so exciting to me. And I just love to do that. I also love to sell shoes, but at the same time, I don't want to be just my nature. I don't want to be sitting around the store waiting for the next client to come in. I'd sooner be there on the busiest of days helping my team get through everything. And it's like, let's go, So that's where I want to inject my energy and my excitement and what I'm really good at in the shoe store. And on the days where it's slower and on the days where there's not much happening, I don't even want to be in the store, and I'm not, as a general rule.
That's amazing. So thank you. I had a lot of things in my head as you were describing that. First one was like #goals. That's where I want to be in life as well. Even though we were talking about I just came from a trip. I worked, I think, 5 to 10 hours just because my team was taking care of everything else. The multiple businesses side and you working with other people, that's essentially where I want to also go in life. So that's funny that, and I was going to make this joke of not to make you feel too old, but I was born in 1995. So literally my whole life you've been in business.
It goes quickly, and looking back, it's just you can't believe how quickly it goes. Even 15 years in the footwear industry, I'm shaking my head going, it seems like yesterday. But at the same time, we've had our ups and downs too.
Yeah, tell me more about that. What were you've gone through multiple transitions basically, and now that's what you help a lot of people through. But while you were in it, while you were still kind of in the trenches in the arena, what were kind of the struggles of either managing more than one business or multiple businesses at a time, or even to the point where you're helping also other people manage their businesses?
Yeah. Couple of things. One of our shoe stores was a miserable failure, to the point where, we had to sell our family cottage in order to pay off the debts to avoid, further problems. And so, being an entrepreneur is not easy. It's not for everyone. It is risky at times. And the risks are sometimes good and sometimes bad. And you have to be okay with that. And in my 30 years, we've had a lot of ones that really panned out well, and we've had a couple that haven't. And like I said, I didn't want to sell our cottage, but we had to. And you have to be okay with that kind of stuff. And that was several years ago now, and it's kind of past us. And it's like, okay, I'm glad that's away now. Like I said, time goes quick. That was
it's not just a blip ago, yeah.
You know, but at the same time, you know, we've had so many things that have gone well, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But, you know, getting back to this idea of moving from operator to owner, early in my career, when we had young kids, probably 5 years in, let's say, we wanted to take a week vacation. And I was, you know, I did have a manager in place that was kind of running some stuff for me at the time, but I was still quite involved. And basically, we had a trip lined up to go to Florida, and we were going to drive because we couldn't afford 5 plane tickets to go to Florida, and it's a 20-hour drive. So we're like going to hop in the car and go.
Wow.
And my manager quit 2 days before we were going away, and he knew we were going away even. You know, and so it caused a real problem for me. And what I ended up doing is I drove my family to Florida. I got a plane ticket. I flew home we left on Friday and drove all day Saturday, got there on Saturday night type thing. I think I stayed for the day on Sunday, flew home on Monday, ran my business from Monday to Friday, flew back Friday night to Florida, picked up my family and drove them home because we had 3 small kids under 5, and I wasn't going to have my wife take them all the way back to Florida. So, I mean, these kind of things happen. And, you know, but one of the things, it's like, how do I set up process so that I have people cross-trained? So that I didn't have to fly back, so that, yes, I have a manager, but I also have other people on my team that can cross-train it and can fill those gaps. So that was my sort of cross-training lesson. It's like, you know what, I really need to have other people that can answer the phone. I really need to have other people that can book an appointment. I really need to have other people that can step in. Because here's one thing, like when we look at the exit planning side of things, everybody, by the way, and I know a lot of your listeners are solopreneurs and stuff like that, but at the same time, one thing's for sure, there is a day down the road that you will exit your business. And your business should be exit ready. And from that perspective, I'll use a couple of examples. You may know, or you may know someone that has died prematurely before they expected to. Well, what happens to your business? Does it just close? All of the value, all of the work, all of the things that you've done to put into this business just closes? What about your family? They don't get any of the benefit that you've worked so hard for? All of the stuff, like if you die prematurely and you don't have it set up, your will set up, all of the different things set up, all of that value just goes away.
True.
It's not only you, it's everything, it's everybody else that is around you doesn't get the benefit of all of your hard work. Divorce is another one that nobody's planning when they get married to be divorced, but 1 in 2 people get divorced. A big percentage of business fail because of that divorce, because in the divorce settlement, we got to figure out a way to pay the bill. Which is divorce and partnership disagreements, same thing, because really you're divorcing your partner. And one of those partners, if not both of those partners, needs to divest of the business. Is there preparations and systems and all of that sort of stuff in order to make sure that that divestment works? Because if it doesn't, all of your work that you're doing now is done. It's not worth anything. And that's a real problem. You know, if you are out of business for 3 weeks or whatever the case is, if you have an emergency heart attack that you've got to be taken care of and you're out, you can't work for a little bit. If you have a car accident and you're, break a leg, but what you do is a service industry and you're out plumbing or electrical or whatever, you can't work with a broken leg. What does that look like? How does that affect your business? How are you planning for that? Is it going to affect the failure of your business, or have you got sort of alternate plans that's like, hey, listen, I've already got it set up that if anything happens to me, Joe, the plumber down the road, is going to take the overflow, and I've got Tim that's going to do the other bits of overflow, and we'll get it covered. Great. I mean, these are the kind of things that we've got to start looking at as our business builds, because we want to be increasing the value of our business with every year, not just the income. The income's great, but the value of the business has to continue to grow too, because someday you will exit your business and you want there to be value there.
Yeah, no, you're preaching to the choir. Like if I wasn't already a systems and processes nerd, I would love every single thing that you're saying. And it's true because some people know this depending on like which part of the podcast they've listened to. 4 years ago when my mom died, my business was super new, but I did the same things that you said. You write down the processes, create templates. So then in the 3 weeks, and I'm the eldest Asian daughter, so then I took care of everyone else. I was able to take those 3 weeks off that we needed for me to make sure that everything was taken care of before I went back to business. And I had a executive assistant who knew everything. At that point, I think we only had one manager, but because of the processes, the systems, the cross training you were talking about, it was then easier for me to take a little bit of that break, check in with them once a day, and know that they were still running everything else. So it is that like, oh my God, what am I going to do? The business can run without you. Like that's essentially what 𝐘𝐿 actually, to be honest, is. Like a lot of people forget that of the saying of like, if you build a business but you're still in it, you made yourself a job, but you get yourself out of it when you're not the you're not the bottleneck, the buck doesn't have to stop with you. So I love everything that you've said there. I love the different ways of kind of the ups and downs of the business of running it and making sure that it can run without you is definitely a key thing. One thing that you touched upon, which I really want to dive into a little bit, is your team side. Is you also mentioned before we started recording, like you have your own executive assistant. That's kind of the whole essence of what we do to 𝐘𝐿 is providing that second brain for people. And we both know how important it is to have a really good executive assistant. But on that side, on the team and your EA, how do they kind of operate? Is it also that they work across their businesses, or there's kind of clear like, oh, you're only working for this business or you're only working for this business? How does that kind of work, them working together also?
Well, I'll go through a real life example because it's happening. So on our shoe store side, and the shoe store side is the bigger side of my two businesses. Okay. It's where the majority of my income comes. And then, so let's say it's about 2/3 and 1/3 on the coaching side. But on the coaching side, it's really just me, and my EA. But I'll kind of lay this all out. So for Shootopia, there are two key people. Her name is Jen and the other is Michelle. And Jen, when I mentioned to you, I haven't hired anybody in a very long time. It's because they do all the hiring. It's also because they're accountable for everything that goes on there. So why would I hire somebody that I'm not directly above on the accountability chart? I only hire the people that I'm directly above on the accountability chart when we look at that. So, which is Jen and Michelle. And then the other person is Ina, who's my executive person over in the Philippines. And so I look after those three, and then everybody else looks after the people underneath them. Well, the problem right now that we're having is that, which is a good problem for Michelle, but Michelle's pregnant. And in Canada, where I am, when you're pregnant, you're allowed to take a year off. Wow. And up to 18 months off. So, and the government pays, it's like unemployment insurance, essentially. The government pays a portion of your salary for that year. And if you want to take the next 6 months off, it pays a lower portion. So that, Michelle could be gone for 18 months from my business. Yet she is one of the key people in the business that makes all of the decisions. So now we've got to split apart Michelle's accountabilities. First of all, she's the bookkeeper. Okay. So she's the bookkeeper for both. Michelle's the only one that works for both businesses. Jen is the operations manager and looks after a lot of Shootopia only stuff. Michelle, because she's more admin based, she looks after a lot of the bookkeeping. She looks after HR. She looks after some of our marketing sides of things for both sides. She looks after a lot of the book stuff for coaching. She takes care of a variety of different specifics on the coaching side of things. And so what we're doing now is we're literally listing out her accountabilities, all of the accountabilities that she does for both businesses, and we're splitting them off. And last week we had a interview for a bookkeeper, and I was involved in that because I'm going to be that bookkeeper's boss for the year that Michelle's gone. And then yesterday we had 2 interviews for a marketing person. And so I was involved in those, same sort of thing. And Michelle was involved because Michelle's the person in charge right now, but I will be as this person comes on. So we want to make sure that we're in alignment as we break apart Michelle's job. And some of them will be doing, some of her stuff we'll be doing internally, and we'll have other Shootopia staff do while she's gone. Some of them will outsource, like the bookkeeping, we're going to outsource. The marketing person, we're going to insource. We're going to hire for that person on a 1-year term. And Ina, who's over in the Philippines, is involved in both of these, and her team is involved in both of these, and they do a lot of our marketing for Shootopia. We just had a beautiful new spring flip book done. They do a lot of that sort of stuff, but Ina's also involved. I'm a podcast producer as well, like you. She does all the podcast stuff. She does all the blogs. She does all the Facebook. She does all the website updates. She helps me book appointments for speaking and all of that sort of thing. So she's very involved on both sides of things. So, you know, we're going to be giving her more integrations, some of Michelle's chores that she takes care of in-house. Ina's team will take care of more of while Michelle's away for the time. So these are all the things when we go through the process, and you get it, Leanne. It's like we got to break apart, and Michelle's very good. She's a very good process person. So she's got everything on video. She's got everything detailed out. So whomever's going to take over those particular processes, and when we align and assign them to the right person, they're going to have everything they need to know, follow through in a step-by-step. Either read it or watch it or whatever the case is, you know, the mouse clicks going all over the place. She's got all of that laid out because she knows she's going away. The beauty of this is that in her case, because she's pregnant, she's had time to prepare all this. And a lot of it was already done anyway, but she's going the extra step to make sure that everything's done. And when we kind of go back to the other thing that we talked about a bit earlier, when things happen to you that you're not expecting, all they can go off of is what's there. And if nothing's there, or if something's there, it's better than nothing. But if nothing's there, they've got to recreate the wheel. Yep. And it's a real problem.
Yeah, it's true. It's funny because like when you're starting a business, it's always that like, oh, it's exciting. Like, oh, someone's willing to pay. Like, oh, I'm growing, I'm doing this. And then eventually, as most people do, they hit that crash of like, oh, I can't do this by myself anymore. Which is why I love talking about like teams. Like, how are you managing your teams? Because in the long run, they're the ones running your business. They're the ones making sure it's running while you're gone, or even as a key person is gone. So it's amazing to hear that, of course, naturally, down to your core, the culture is systems, is processes, is making sure that, of course, for Michelle, she would appreciate it that her boss is taking care of that. She doesn't have to worry about having to look for another job in about 18 months because, hey, everything is recorded, everything is written down, everything is expanded. And one thing that I've seen a lot of the time is even as a key person leaves, because everything is documented, that even expands further. So when they come back, their job even expands a little bit better, and it's a little bit easier for them because like, oh yeah, we put this here, we changed this tool here. So I'm funny enough, I'm excited to see how your business kind of adapts without Michelle, just because I've seen that over and over again. It's like a key person leaves, and like because they've left for a period of time, we've had with our own clients, like with their EAs, like their manager would leave or operations person leaves, and then their EA basically expands their role just because like, oh, we can do this faster, or we can add this part or remove this part of the system, that when that person eventually comes back, that they can have a better relationship, because then the other people in the team understand how the business, how hard they worked basically. So there's that appreciation. And of course, like I said, like the systems always get a little bit easier whenever that happens. So that's a really, really good example, and I love that it's live happening right now, so you can talk about it. I'm like, oh, literally this week, this is what we've had to deal with. That's amazing. And so then, since they're different businesses, like one is more physical, one is kind of surrounding your expertise, how do you kind of make sure that they're aligned with your vision, what you're trying to do? Like, for me, it's a little bit easier where I'm an AI consultant and I have to XU, because then they're kind of like saying, okay, we're AI enabled executive assistants. So it's easy to kind of merge. But for you, since it is such an interesting, basically also kind of a case study to look at of like, this is having a physical business and this is what it's like to have kind of something surrounded on your brand and expertise, and this is how they can still work together. How does that work culture wise, and like I said, aligning to your vision?
Well, if we break it down, because I do own both businesses, it's still me. So, at the top, it's still me. So I have my own sort of core values and cultural, family type atmosphere. We want, a lot of that sort of stuff. That's who I am. And I don't change when I go to work. That doesn't change at the store. It doesn't change with my clients. It doesn't change in the conversations that I have with on stage, speaking in front of an audience, or whether we're having a conversation here today on a podcast, or whether it's with my coaching clients. It's like, as a business coach, people pay me to give them ideas and help them work through problems and all that stuff. And all I can do is work through them with them from my perspective. And my perspective is my perspective. So from that side of things, it's what I've learned, it's what I've known, it's all of the things I've studied, it's all of the life experiences that I've had as a husband, a parent, and a business owner. And so all of that combined comes into how we run the culture side of things. And we said to one of the people yesterday, she said, well, what's the culture like? And I said, it's like a family. When we have our disagreements, we get over them. And when when somebody needs, like one of Jen, who I also mentioned, is one of our key people. Her husband is awaiting heart surgery right now, and she called on Sunday and she said, I'm going to be off this week. Bill's awaiting heart surgery. And it's like, we got you covered, no problem. Like, family first, take care of what, it doesn't matter what. And she's like a leader of the organization, but everybody else is cross-trained. We can still get orders done. We can still make a schedule. We can still open the door. We can still close the door. All of that stuff is set up so that everybody else fills the gaps, because Jen is a key person. We all love her. She's all helped us so much over the time. Why wouldn't we want to make sure that she's taking care of her family?
Yeah.
And so this is sort of like, when you have the right process, when you have the right accountabilities, when you have things cross-trained, when you have everybody knows what needs to happen, and there's clarity and communication around what needs to happen in any given sort of situation, then these things aren't big things. For somebody else, like I said, it was a big thing for me early on in my career when that person wasn't there that week. I was going to Florida, to the point where I had to get on a plane, fly home. But this week when Jen isn't around, it's like, okay, I'll cover on Sunday. It's like, no problem. I went into work and somebody else covered something else, and Michelle covered some stuff. And, we between us all, we just pitch in and get it done. And that's sort of, the other thing, Leanne, it takes time to do this. It takes time to set all of this stuff up. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not just a flip of the switch. You need to think about it. You need to actually have time to think about it.
Yeah.
And, one of the things I love is building an accountability chart with my clients. It's like, how many people you got? Oh, I got 20 people, or I got 4 people. It doesn't matter. Who's accountable for what? Let's get it all laid out. And some people will say organizational chart, but I like to use the idea of using accountability chart, because I really don't care what your title is. I just want to know what you do. So, let's get all those accountabilities in. And then as the business grows, what accountabilities are we pulling off certain people so that when we hire the next person, outsource or insource, doesn't matter. When we hire that next person, then we're going to say, this, like bookkeeping, for example, this is coming off of you or off of me at that time. This is coming off of me and going to Leanne. And my first bookkeeper, her name was Leanne too. So, you know, and it was a happy day for me when I released my bookkeeping to Leanne. And this is the other thing I think is really cool. When you start doing this kind of stuff, and when you start using EAs, and when you start using, the power of other people to make some of the decisions for you, it's like you'll have this sort of revelation and say, why didn't I do this earlier? I'm sure you see that with your clients. It's like, oh my God, why didn't I do this earlier? And what else can you do for me? Because I want more. I want more time. I want more. I want to get rid of, I've got an exercise called Love It or Leave It. And what the exercise that I put my clients through, they list everything they're accountable for. And then they put it in one of the 4 boxes, these 4 boxes. They take them and just move them over to 4 different pages. And those 4 different pages are, I love it and I'm good at it. I love it and I'm not good at it. I don't love it and I'm good at it. I don't love it and I'm not good at it. And a lot of small business owners, I'll tell you what, don't live in I love it and I'm good at it. If you look at the percentage of the time, it's not a lot there.
Nope.
One of their biggest boxes almost is I'm good at it, but I don't love it. Because they feel as though they need to do it. Sometimes they feel as though they're the only person that can do it. And it's sad if you're spending 70% of your time in your business because you got into business and you want a better life. And if you're not working in the areas that give you joy and give you excitement and fill your cup instead of empty it, I find that sad. And so, but a lot of my clients, you know, when they come to me, they're working in that bucket of I'm really good at it, but I don't love it. And that's like me with bookkeeping. If I spent, 30 of my 40 hours a week, let's say, bookkeeping, I would not be a happy camper.
Yeah.
Even though I can do it, I'm good at it. I understand it. I can know all of that. But that's not the life I want to live as a business owner. So what are we doing when people say, well, what do I start to like unload? Well, you start to unload that box. It's like the stuff that you're good at, but you don't want to do anymore. You want to and free yourself up to be more in the love it zone. When you're in the love it zone, it's like, now I can start thinking about stuff. Now I can start looking at where I'm going to build the next best customer, the next best product or service that we're going to bring in. Where are we going to expand? All of these different things. If you're working all the time, you don't have time to think about that stuff because all you're doing is putting out today's fires.
Yeah, and it's magical because you touched upon a lot of things that I love talking about. One was the first one was, of course, the part of being a business owner is not just giving yourself freedom, it's also giving your team freedom. And that's a philosophy that a lot of people don't understand. And I love that you live by it, where they're like, they think of their people as, especially when they hire from the Philippines, they've never met this person in person. They forget they're a human being, and they forget that they have a life outside of it. And like my biggest thing that I also teach our clients when they're, onboarding their assistant is that we have to get it to a point where you can take your vacation, your assistant can take your vacation, and nothing basically blows up. That's kind of the ultimate goal, is getting to that point. And another thing that you touched upon, I love the 4 quadrants. For me, I call it the 80-20 assessment. So, of course, priority principle, out of 10 things you're doing, 2 of them is the things that you love and make you money. And then you want to focus on that and start delegating the rest. And I love that you touched upon, like, a lot of people are working on the things that they kind of feel like they have to do, but they don't get to do. And that's such a powerful thing to realize as you're scaling yourself and your business, is that you have to get yourself out of that. Because, if Pete is doing 30 hours of bookkeeping, Pete will not want to look at his business ever again. So it's an important distinction to have. So the last question I want to touch upon, which kind of wraps up, is my favorite question to ask on the podcast. Yeah.
Can I fill in a little gap there? Because I think it's really important. You mentioned about your EA deserves some time off too. And I'm going to give you a very relevant story. My EA, who's worked with me now for about 3 years, love her to death. And her husband works with us too. And she's gone through some unfortunate stuff. And literally, just as we're having this, today was her first day back. Just before we got on the call, she's been off for 2 weeks.
Wow.
She went through a miscarriage, and days after her miscarriage, her grandfather passed away.
Ooh.
Days after that, her father had a medical incident as well. She was hit 3 times in a very short period with major life problems, and that you need time to recuperate for, that you need time to be with your family, that you need time to be with those that you love. And our philosophy, she is a member of our team. Just like I said to Jen, she needs time to be with her husband. Ina needed time to be with her family. She took 2 weeks off. No questions asked. It's just like, take the time that you need. When you're ready to come back, let's chat. So today we had our chat, and it's like, you know what, we a virtual hug, right? Because that's what we can do right now. But virtual hug, and it's like, we love you, we care for you, and we want you to do well, and all this stuff. And if you need to take time, not ramping up full off the bat, then take the time that you need, because this is a long-term partnership.
Yeah. And
it's like a family member. And from that perspective, the culture, this is the culture of our business, Leanne. And it doesn't matter if the person lives in the Philippines, or if the person lives in France, or if the person lives in South America, or if the person lives in our town. It's the culture of our business. And, you can't have 2 different cultures. It doesn't work that way, because then you look like a fake. And so whatever the culture is, and people either are on board or they're not. And from that side of things, I just wanted to share that, because when you said, your EA deserves some time off too, they do. And they need to be treated like everybody else is treated. There's no difference. And if there is a difference, that's a problem for your business, and you need to understand that, and you need to fix it.
Yeah, I love that story, because it happens. Like that, we've had plenty of, sadly, other EAs also in the last year where they've gone through one after the other, and we've basically, because we've set up systems for their client, they can still keep running things, and that's a key thing. But it's also keeping in mind that just like it can happen to you, it can also happen to any member of your business. And it's important because the other side of it, the reality of it, is you're giving them that security. You're giving them like, oh, I'm taking 2 weeks off. Like normally you're like, shoot, and will I have a job after the end of that 2 weeks? So the way that that's why I'm like, whenever you're talking, I'm like, I light up, because you're kind of validating me of what I'm doing the last, my baby company compares to all of your companies. You're validating like, oh, okay, I'm doing the right thing when I do that. Like, okay, it's us taking care of our people, because in turn, of course, they take care of us naturally. Not that we expect them to take care of us, but we basically know that when we invest in the right people, like you said, invest in the right people, invest in the right processes and systems, mindset, that culture, it comes back tenfold, not always in the way that we expect, but it's always in the way where it always is a delight. Like the universe, God, whatever it is, kind of rewards it a little bit, just because like you are not thinking of your people as robots, basically. And I love that's very much where your mindset is at as well. So thank you for sharing that. That's a valuable thing, and I hope for people who are listening to this, that's the reality of having your team. Even if someone is your executive assistant, essentially that second brain of yours, they will need to take time off. And like on like the flip side for me, I was telling you, my own assistant, her name is Honey, which is the perfect name for an EA, is Honey. She's taking time off the last couple of days. She just went to another city, basically with her boyfriend, who is my video editor, who's going to edit this podcast. And I want to kind of emphasize that these stories are common, basically, that life happens, you want to make sure that your business is not just, of course, for you. You want to think long term of like, when you, for example, the story you told, like you exiting your business, I bet when you exited that business, everyone else didn't feel bad, they didn't feel sad, because you know, you communicated with them, you built the processes with them, that even as you're exiting the business, that they're going to be taken care of. So that's kind of the long-term thing, and I love that you kind of built that within yourself and the culture within the businesses that you've had and run. And I know for a lot of people who are listening in, who are newer, who are scared, who doesn't know yet how to think long term because everything is just what's in front of them, you're giving them a really good something to look forward to. So yeah, thank you so much. So like I said, the last question is the one that I love asking because it always gives me a good insight about the person. But if we were to duplicate Pete, if we were able to, you know, AI has forwarded enough where we can fully duplicate you, the 7 of you, 300 of you have a whole army of Petes. What is the way that you want to scale yourself? Or other way that I love asking it is, what's the value that you want to scale that is within you into the world?
It's my belief, Leanne, that, and this is why I work with entrepreneurs, it's my belief that business owners are the backbones of their community. They're the people that hire and put bread on the table for a lot of people. Typically, the business owners are also the ones, as busy as they are in business, they're the coaches of the baseball team. They're the coaches on the swim club. They're leading the charge in Girl Guides or at the church community or whatever the case is. They're running the organizations, the charitable foundations that put the new wing on the hospital. They're, all of these things. When you look at it, not always, but an unusual proportion of the leaders of all of those charitable things are business owners. An unusual proportion of the amount of money that's donated are from business owners. And in some small way, it's my feeling that if I can help that business owner get more time back, they'll donate more time. Make more money, they'll donate more money. And be a better community person, their community will be better. And so I look at the stuff that I do and it's very small, but the stuff that I do, I look at, if I can help these people with that sort of thing, then in some way I've helped that community in that town as well. And that makes me feel good. It makes me feel good about what I do. So my goal really is, with the coaching, with the speaking, with all of the different things that I do, I'm trying to help people like you, but in a different sort of way, break free from that 70-hour, I'm heads down, sort of working all the time, never looking at the bigger picture. Because it's until they have time to look at the bigger picture, they can help their families, they can help themselves, and they can help their communities. So that's my goal, is really to continuously drive home the fact that we need to set our businesses up this way so that other people are helping us make decisions, and so that we're available to work in our love it zone, because not only because we want to, but because it gives us energy as business owners. And when business owners have energy and aren't completely depleted, good things happen.
I love that. And again, it's very much aligned to what we do and what I believe in. And I wholeheartedly, literally our mission statement in 2XU is, we are the multipliers of the creators of value, and those value creators are entrepreneurs. And one way that I even say that is, like, everything that you see came from a mind of someone who saw opportunity and wanted to share it with everyone else. So I love that that's your vision. I love that that's your goal. How could people connect with you? How could people reach out to you, work with you, or even just say that was an awesome interview? How could people find you, Pete?
The best way, really, I'm on LinkedIn at Pete Mohr, M-O-H-R, Instagram, Pete Mohr, M-O-H-R, and my website, Pete-Mohr. And from the website, you'll get all of my other websites, my podcasts, the Exit Ready Business website, the Kolbe Coach website, all the stuff, free downloads, all sorts of things on those sites as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your amazing interview and amazing energy and amazing stories as well. I know for a lot of people who are watching this or listening to this, they're getting immense amount of value. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Pete.
It's been a pleasure, Leanne. Make it a great day.
I hope you guys enjoyed that interview with Pete. I enjoyed it a lot just because, again, a lot of things were just aligning to my own values and how I saw the world. So Pete saying all of that basically gives a lot of validation of what we're saying here at the Scale You podcast, where if you want to scale yourself and you want to scale your business, it doesn't have to be just you. Focus on the right things basically and build the systems and processes to support it. And I love every single thing that Pete said. It's where I see entrepreneurship growing into as well. Now, if you guys liked that episode, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, of course, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there. If you are listening to this or watching it somewhere else, give us some love in the comments or wherever else that you can interact with us. We love hearing from you. And of course, make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the episodes here at the Scale You podcast. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. And remember that small steps matters. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.